both of these countries are communist countries. They're both communist countries. So the media will never know what goes on there. They won't. That's one hallmark of communist countries. The media is told the story and they better follow that story or they get shot in the face. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. You say what I told you to say, you get shot in the face right here, right now. I'll shoot you on camera. That's how communist countries are. So what we're hearing from the media, it's like, well, that's just what they want you to hear. Like, you can say you're greatest reporter in the world all you want, but you are still alive, so you're lying. That's just how that works. You're telling a story about a communist country and you're alive, which means you're lying.
Hello everyone, my name is Andre McClendon. Welcome to the channel. Guys, I have an amazing, wonderful video for you. Today I bring you an individual that I met through a Facebook group for this first time collaboration. His name is William. He has an amazing sci-fi channel. So guys, I'm going to let him introduce himself. Here you go, William.
And my name is William. I usually go by Mind of Phil on my YouTube channel. I do a lot of things. I do some skits. I do stuff remotely about sci-fi and technology that's coming out and things that's going on. I do a couple of conspiracy videos, and I do a lot of teaching videos on editing when it comes to writing. So it's editing and writing stories and how storylines should go and things like anything that goes into creating something for a book, a short story, or even a poem. That's generally what I teach on my channel.
Nice. So when did you start YouTube, and what inspired you to start?
I can't remember when I started YouTube. I think I started like 7 years ago. I had my first upload on YouTube is about almost 20 years old now. My first upload on YouTube was actually for a class where we did. It was my class in college, so that was 2010. I did my class project where I designed a car, and I uploaded the car to there so I can showcase it for the class. I had a YouTube channel when YouTube started because I was one of the original YouTube members where you had to get an invite to join. I had an invite to join back then. But I never uploaded anything. I started uploading a few years back when I decided to put more effort into my books. So I would upload teaching, because that's what I like to do. I'll teaching classes on short ones, just little things, that questions I was asked about how to do stuff. So I did videos on how to do world building, the plot summaries, character building, and little stuff like that. I made like short little videos on each one of those.
Nice. And let's see. So when you started creating these videos, how did you progress? How did you get better?
I got better by watching other YouTubers, primarily YouTubers that were not in my field that did things I didn't know how to do. So a lot of YouTubers I watched when I first started doing YouTube was YouTubers on photography, audio editing, video editing, and comedy YouTubers, stuff like that. That's mostly what I watched. I learned how to edit video. I learned how to edit audio more than I did because I learned how to do that in high school audio. Also, but I learned quite a bit from all those channels. It was little stuff. They had little tips, and those little tips, over time, they added up to a lot of stuff. Like my first video I did was completely different than the ones I do now. Even though the first one I did took me, I think, like 12 hours to edit. Mm-hmm. And now I finished editing. Anyway, the first video I did took 12 hours to edit and was only 4 minutes long. The last video I did took 2 hours to edit, but it's 28 minutes long.
Wow.
So over time, what I've learned over time, I use everything I learned to make the process simpler and faster. And I also learned quite a bit about shooting video too. And the video looks completely different, even though from the videos I make now, you would think I have all kinds of different setup. I have never stopped using my cell phone. Never, ever stopped using my cell phone. I had a DSLR camera because my brother is a photographer. I never used it. I just never saw the point. A lot of people actually ask me what camera I use, and I was like, I don't use a camera. I just use whatever cell phone I have at the moment.
Nice. So when you're starting your YouTube journey and you're building up to this, like, what has been the best part of YouTube? Like, your most favorite part?
My favorite part is making videos because it's fun. I'm a little bit introverted, but I like videos. I like making stuff. And I've been writing my entire life, and it seems it's just an extension of writing something. So it's very fun. I've written skits, and some of my videos, I'm like, I got like 2 views, and I'm like, I like this video. I don't care. It was a fun video. I haven't had like movie reviews where I did skits in front of the video. Like I had one where I was talking to myself. It came out weird, but it was fun to do. So that's what I like doing with YouTube. I like making something that I find fun. A lot of people find it fun too, but mostly I enjoy it first.
Nice. Yeah, I would say YouTube has been a big eye opener. I love this platform, which is a little bit different in some aspects, but overall really good. But what do you see your goals are? It's like, what's your next year's goal or this year's goal when it comes to YouTube?
Right now, I'm actually doing my 90-day challenge, which ironically I started. This is like day 6, I think. Yeah, day 6. So I'm doing a challenge to see if I can record videos most days, or at least edit a video every single day. And I'm also working on like a movie script and working on my books because I'm trying to integrate my YouTube channel and my videos more with the work I actually do, like my writing and things like that. Because after COVID hit, all that stuff kind of went to the wayside, and I focused on my actual job at the moment. So like now that I'm putting it back in the front, I'd like to be like full time working on YouTube like next year, because like in 2 weeks I'm bringing back my websites, because I had 4 websites. They're all down because I deleted most of them because I was like, I'm not paying for that because it's an extra expense that I don't need. So I'm gonna pay for them like in 2 weeks. I think, yeah, about 2 weeks to bring them all back online, which is gonna be something that's another challenge because I haven't done web design in years.
Hmm. Oh, actually, can you tell us more about your book? I'd love to hear about it.
I write sci-fi. That's more everything I write is sci-fi actually, because it's just what I like. I have a scene. I had a picture. I forgot what it was. Oh yeah. Because the thing I wrote that I like, that I have a little. It's like one of my backgrounds on my phone. Is it still on my phone? I think. I think it's still on my phone. It's to the right. Oh yeah, it's still on my phone. I mean, it's back there with the. Well, you can't see my phone. It's back up. It says sci-fi. Sci-fi becomes reality when you stop dreaming and doing. And like, I really like living by that because sci-fi is really just looking forward to the future. It's not really looking at something spectacular. It's just looking to the future. So I started writing sci-fi for that reason, and all my stuff, it's really far into the future. So I have superheroes that their powers come from nanites, and they have the most insane powers. Like they're ripping planets apart level powers. Not the whole I'm gonna. They don't really care too much to save people. It's their job, first of all. They're not heroes because they buried their kind and all. No, it's just their job. Most of them don't like people. Most of them don't even live on planets because a lot of them just live in space, just empty void space by themselves. So that's one thing. My stories usually take place when events where they go rescue somebody and they will save someone. The last one I did, he went to save a princess. But my stuff generally has fun in it because I like to be uplifting, and humor really uplifts you. So that one actually starts with him falling out of the sky. He is teleported to the planet 10,000 feet high and he just falls. That's how it starts. And he is one of the few members of the Alliance that can't fly. So he just falls to the planet. He doesn't die because they don't die, but it still hurts a lot.
Interesting. Before we change topics, I want to get one last thing about you guys, about sci-fi. How long have you been into this field? Like, how long have you been working with sci-fi, creating stories? Like, has it been a whole journey for you?
So I wrote my first story, which is what started all these series. Because before that, I used to write poetry. I've won poetry contests, and like my poetry is someplace under different names because I didn't really like using my name back then. Um, but sci-fi was like what really interests me because I like sci-fi. I like looking at the future. So I started that back in 2008 was when I wrote my first story. I finished that story. I started in 2008 in 2011. And that story was called Curse of Life, which started the entire series about my superheroes.
Nice. So it's been, wow, let's see, 2008, so you're talking about you're doing this over 10 years. This is, I see why you started the channel about it. This is awesome. But now, guys, we're going to switch gears. We're getting to the political side. So let's jump right in first thing. So what are your thoughts about world politics, or just say United States politics today?
World politics today are crazy. They're crazy. I mean, I predicted a lot of them because Doomsday is kind of my thing. I like to write Doomsday stuff a lot, and then get the hero coming and save everyone. And like watching world politics, it's like I could write this if I tried. Like every day I'd see something happen. I'm just like, that would have been cool to put in the story, and I wish I thought of that. But this is crazy, and I don't know how people are doing this. Like, I don't believe it's like even what happened with Andrew Tate. The fact that happened so quickly, it's like, crazy. Like nobody complained. It just happened. It just happened. It's not like because you remember Alex Jones. The same thing happened to him, but at least with Alex Jones, this took like a week. And this took a whole bunch of stuff. Andrew Tate, it just happened. Not even overnight. No, it just happened. Like 1 minute it was here, and then the next minute vanished. Everything was gone. Not even the amount of stuff Alex Jones had deleted was deleted for Andrew Tate. It like just vanished instantly. And then even last week, or a couple of days ago, this week actually, the Queen died. And like even the stuff that's happened since the Queen died, it's kind of like, wow, this is the crazy world we live in. Because it's like some people are like, oh, rest in peace, and then other people are like, that's what you get. You should have did this instead. You want to live longer. I'm like, live longer. The lady was nearly 100 years old. She was going to die. Because I saw like the vegan teacher actually said she would have lived longer if she was vegan. I was like, no, she wouldn't have. She's nearly 100 years old. She's had her time. So, it's crazy. Looking at politics right now, it's very crazy because it's up and down everywhere.
Let me see. Well, when it comes to the politics, do you think, let's say, is it more left-leaning, right-leaning, center? Like, what would you say, like, CNN is left-leaning, right-leaning? Or just, what's your thing about the biasness?
Most TV networks are left-leaning, except for Fox, which is leaning more right. But they're also kind of leaning left at the same time. They're starting to lean more left now. But pretty much every TV network, all mainstream media leans the same way left. And it's kind of like, why am I watching the news? Because, most media is left-leaning now. Most of them, all of them say the exact same thing. So it doesn't even matter if you watch it or not. Because it's all going to be the same thing. And a lot of times it feels like, are you even telling me what you're going on? Because I saw that was funny. I think it was Denzel Washington. He had the thing when he was talking to the media. I think it was Denzel Washington, and he said you guys don't even care about being first. It doesn't even matter if you're right or wrong as long as you're first. And that's what's going on now because everybody's saying the same thing. It doesn't matter if they're right. It doesn't matter if they're wrong, as long as they're first. So I'm just like, I prefer to find random YouTube clips or even people that's there on Facebook. It's more informative than actual reporters and stuff.
No, I'm happy you brought that up. Since we have this, YouTube, we have Rumble, we have other people's platforms that are basically where a lot of people get their news. Do you think this is where people are slowly migrating to non-big medias?
Yeah, that's been happening for a while, and one of the things that they're not going to talk about, and it's obvious that it's happening, is people are also migrating away from YouTube because of it. Because a lot of the large media companies came to YouTube and they're getting special treatment. Because it's like, oh, Jimmy Kimmel started a YouTube channel. He now has 4 million YouTube subscribers. Yeah, right. Half those are just people getting auto-subscribed. And it does happen. You do get subscribed for stuff automatically, especially when you start a YouTube channel now. When you start a YouTube account now, you will be automatically subscribed to things that YouTube thinks you want to watch, and they do subscribe you to very large creators now. I've actually seen, like, I think it was SNL showed up on my YouTube subscription list, and I'm like, why? I don't like SNL. I don't like that kind of comedy. Like, yeah, I like comedy, but I don't like just slapstick humor. It's not my thing. I like stand-up comedy, not slapstick humor. If you're gonna be slapstick humor, you better be Monty Python. But if you're not, I'm sorry, but you're not that good. That's not the type of videos that you should watch. But I was still subscribed to it somehow. So yeah, it shows that they do subscribe you for stuff that they want you to watch.
So, actually, when it comes to the media, do you think that there's, let's say, when it comes to left, right, center, do you think there's an agenda for whichever side they're on?
Yeah, of course. That's just human nature. Agendas, but it just matters what their agenda is. Everybody has an agenda. Every political campaign has an agenda, regardless of what it is. They all have an agenda, and a lot of times, the agenda is what people resonate with. But sometimes it's not, because sometimes they don't know the actual agenda, and it's hidden sometimes. But a lot of times, the agenda behind something is what people resonate with. Trump's agenda was America first, and that's what people resonated with. I'm not too sure about the left's agenda is, because they seem kind of all over the place. They're not really focused on anything. But they do have an agenda, and whether or not that agenda is a good agenda for everybody else is still up for grabs.
My next topic would be, so what are your thoughts about the Russia-Ukraine crisis that's happening?
I started following it and I stopped following it at first. And what I think happened actually was like it's like an attention battle. It seems like what it was. Russia wanted more attention than they were getting. Ukraine wanted attention, and it escalated a lot faster than it was supposed to. And there was no one there to be like, okay, you guys can just calm down and relax. And it's funny because a lot of people say, well, if Trump was in office, there would have been World War III a long time ago. Like, but no, because that was the de-escalation point. Everybody was rushing to Trump for something. It's like, oh, well, you said this, and they're all looking at Trump to say, well, you got to decide what's going on. Not a great policy, but at least there was somebody that would be the arbiter. Now there's no one there in the middle. Now there's no arbiter. The only thing you can do is fight with each other until eventually escalate it to war. And I think that's what's going on now. Like, they're just going back and forth because there's no one stepping in to be like, okay, well, I'm going to listen to what both of you have to say and we're going to decide this. No, they're pretty much left to do it on their own, which generally when that happens, countries go to war. Because they're not going to resolve it peacefully when you have the choice to take over somebody or don't take over somebody. That's your two options. You're going to go with take over the other person. You're not going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to sit here and try to figure this out peacefully, even though I don't have a reason to take over peacefully. I have one reason to go to war and take over your country and 0 reasons to be at peace. And that's, I think, what actually happened with the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. They lost that reason. They lost the threat of somebody crazy enough to send a nuke over to them. And then they're like, well, you know what? No one's actually going to do anything anymore, so we can do whatever we want now. We'll resolve this ourselves. They went to war to resolve it themselves.
So, what do you think? Should America be supporting them in any way, or the UN should be supporting Ukraine or Russia, or let them handle it themselves?
I think it's too late for that. I think you should let them handle it themselves. Like, the reason all this started is because you wanted to. America and other countries basically stepped out of the region and said, you do it yourself. Now they're at war, they want to jump back in and say, no, we need to do it yourself. It's like, no, you kind of lost that chance. You stepped out. Let them finish it themselves. It sucks. People will die, but at the same time, don't start another world war. Because another world war is going to be a lot worse because this is not like World War II where you have tanks and little cars and driving and small bomb. No, you have missiles that drive themselves across the entire planet now. People are sitting at home in their basement on a computer controlling 50 drones to go attack a different country. it's not this warfare. It's not the same as it was during World War II. It's a lot more devastating, and biological weapons are a thing. And people are like, they'll never use that because the Geneva Convention. Geneva's not even a real place anymore. Think about that. Where followed the Geneva Convention? Okay, is it a real country anymore? As much as you could say yes, they are. No, they're not. They're not a real country anymore. So if their country can disappear, do you think their convention's gonna hold up? Not really.
Wow.
So we need to let them do what they're doing.
Makes sense. Because, I've seen a lot of, media trying to force two different sides' opinions on it, like trying to make people get into that, like support Ukraine or support support America invading into. And I'm like once again, I'm always in the middle. I always like to see what the media is trying to spin. Like we were saying before, they all have their agendas. But it just, to me, I wish I had more evidence. I wish I can be there and actually learn what actually happened. Like, not the media's perspective. Like, it'd be nice to have an interview with one of the presidents to get their actual input on it.
How about they, at the end of the day, both of these countries are communist countries. They're both communist countries. So the media will never know what goes on there. They won't. That's one hallmark of communist countries. The media is told the story and they better follow that story or they get shot in the face. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. You say what I told you to say, you get shot in the face right here, right now. I'll shoot you on camera. That's how communist countries are. So what we're hearing from the media, it's like, well, that's just what they want you to hear. Like, you can say you're greatest reporter in the world all you want, but you are still alive, so you're lying. That's just how that works. You're telling a story about a communist country and you're alive, which means you're lying.
Yeah,
because you had there's an example of it that happened recently where there's a bunch of reporters that when COVID started, a bunch of reporters were going into China, and then one of them came back out. Like, 4 of them went in, one of them came out, and he said something, and then he had a video a week later saying it was a lie, and that's the only thing you heard. It was a lie. They couldn't find him. There was no body. There's no blood. There's nothing. There was one clip that said he lied, and that was the whole clip. He just said he lied. No one knows what he lied about. No one knows what was going on, and he just vanished. We found there was a report 3 weeks later. Oh, he has COVID. It's like, okay, but where's his body? Where did he have COVID? I thought he's in the hospital. Nope. Now he's been dead. They came. They took him because he started saying he lied. Then he got killed before he could even finish his thought. And that's just how it works in communist countries. You get killed when you go against it.
Especially when it comes to COVID. COVID's been, to me, a very crazy subject, especially when it comes to social media. But let's see, when COVID was at its peak, or even when it first started, how did you handle the situation? How did you assess that?
My wife works with COVID, so her lab actually works with COVID. But she hates me for that because from the time it started, I was like, this is going to end badly. And watch, at the end of this, before the lockdown started, I was like, when they started announcing they were going to do a lockdown, I was like, if they lock the country down, more people are going to die in a result of the lockdown than would have died with COVID if we did nothing. And she was all behind the lockdown. And now, what happened now that there's ended the lockdown, more people died because of the lockdown than would have died with COVID if no one locked anything down. Because more people, the suicide rate went through the roof because of COVID. People got laid off. People starved to death. So much happened as a result of the lockdown that caused people to die or become in situations where they'll take years to get out of, that if they had COVID, they would have had a better chance. And the amount of people that died from COVID, in retrospect, is quite minimal. And like I had said, when COVID started, I was like, well, of course the lockdown's going to go through because look at the people getting sick and dying, old people. Who's all the money belongs to in the country? Old people. Of course they're going to lock the thing down. They don't care because they're already not going anywhere anyway. So country got locked down, all this stuff happened, and I was like, this seems to go exactly like I said. And every day she like it was like a month where every day she would be like, she would look at me and she'd be mad. It's like, I hate you. I was like, what? She's like, something you said like when this started happening again today. I was like, yeah, I know, because this is literally following the timeline of story. It was following the timeline of a story I wrote before COVID started. The story was actually, ironically enough, about anti-vaxxers. And I never published the story on my website because I was like, nope, I'm going to get shot.
Oh, when it comes to COVID, like, do you think that like it was more like fear-based information, scientific information, or just confusion?
It was fear-based. Even my wife admits that because they had very little information of what COVID was. It was a new strand and they had little information, so they aired on the chance of fear versus what was going on because they didn't understand it. So they aired on the chance of we're better to be afraid and do all this than to not do it and then it gets worse and we all die. But I aired on the chance of we're the human race and we've been around for a very long time and we survived the Black Death. And COVID's not the Black Death because it doesn't have death in its name. It's obviously says it's not as bad. We survived the Black Death with a lot less medicine than we have now. Yeah, people will die, but look at the world now. The world now is a lot worse off than if half the population, if 1/10 of the population died from COVID, we would be in a better safe place than we are now. Think about that. 1/10 of the population died from COVID. The people that were going to die, we would actually be better off than we are now because the population that was dying were people that weren't working, they were elderly, they were sick, and they had other underlying conditions that kept them from doing things that society needed. That is not 1/10 of the population. That is close to 30% of the population. So if 1/10 of the population died, yes, we would have the stragglers that were regular members of society, but at the same time, society wouldn't fall apart like it is now. Because now, instead of having 1/10 of the population be affected, the entire population is affected. And the entire population is suffering because of it now.
So since COVID, we had its height, and now we're kind of like, I'll say, the tail end of COVID. What are you doing to prepare for the next COVID or the next, let's say, virus that comes out? Are you preparing for that at all?
There is not going to be another one. Why is there not going to be? Like, one of the things, I'm generally seen as a pretty negative person, but usually I'm right about a lot of stuff like this. There's not going to be another one because people are just not going to do it again. Yes, COVID was pushed as a norm, staying home was a norm, but now people are just like, you know what? You guys screwed everything up. We're all screwed now. If you tell us to do this again, we're not doing it because we'll take our chances. At least I'm going to have food on my table when I die. That's people's attitude now. Because if you look around in a lot of countries, people are starting to starve and people are just like, no, we're not doing that for a disease that I may or may not get. It's just not going to happen again.
I like that perspective. Very different, especially very different with the media. For media, fear, stay home.
People are afraid, but people are just like, it's worse if I stay home because at least if I go out there, I might be afraid, but at least I have food to eat. And that is the number one thing about the human race. They have food. Think, just look at a lot of stuff. No matter what you do, if you don't have food, no matter how afraid you are of going to work, you're still going to go to work. And that's a situation a lot of the country is in right now. You might be afraid of going to work. You might listen to these precautions, but you're like, yeah, you know what? That's all good and fine and dandy, but I need to provide food for my kids. Especially men, they're not going to listen to that because we're driven, as men, to keep providing for kids at the cost of our own life. So a lot of men are going to look and be like, okay, that's fine, but my kids will have food. There are women like that too. They'll be like, that's fine, but my kids will have food. My kids will still be fine. So it doesn't matter. Like,
Bitch.
and people are like, well, that's not true. Well, look at the world. Like, if you don't think it's true, go to the grocery store and pick up a can. Because you could do that. There is some guy out there that's going, my life sucks, but my kids are okay. Because you know what happens? Because truck drivers' lives suck. They work 60 hours a week, 5 weeks in a row, and they don't see anybody at all, no family for 5 weeks at a time to make sure you have food. Now you're gonna tell me those same people are gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna go to work because you said so. Because what happened during COVID? They still went to work.
Yes, it was actually, I found it very interesting when COVID first popped off and they started, saying essential businesses that are very, I would say, biased businesses to make it easy like that. The workspace involved with like, we only want these jobs, but everyone needs to eat. Everyone. I mean, we can't live off of these stimulus checks that, I mean, how many stimulus checks came out? Like 2 or 3? That's not enough to feed. Yeah. I mean, and then a lot of Americans didn't even get
that's enough the stimulus check could only last a month in Florida. Like all three of them would last a month. That's the cost of living here now. Like that's enough for literally 1 month. All three checks.
Wow. And actually, before we switch gears, one thing about the stimulus checks, do you think there was a net benefit, or they shouldn't have done it?
No, it was fine. It wasn't that benefit because a lot of people were helped. A lot of people, especially here, a lot of people started businesses with their stimulus checks and quit their job. So it did actually help. Like that wasn't that benefit. Like this new thing that they're doing, I don't know because there's a lot going on with their new stimulus thing for the economy, but none of it involves getting regular people money, which I don't see what's going to happen with that. But for overall, the stimulus check was actually pretty good because you probably didn't notice, but nurses actually got more money. So doctors didn't get any money from the stimulus check. So a lot of people didn't know. If you were a doctor, you probably didn't get anything. And some nurses didn't get anything either. My wife's mother is a nurse. She didn't get the first stimulus check.
Wow. It's kind of interesting. I thought everyone got a piece of that, but I guess not.
It depends on your income in your field that you worked in and whether or not you were going to work. Because the thing was, especially the last stimulus check, why it was so late is they're debating giving people that were still working the money. And that was the problem. But the thing is, the people that never stopped working were nurses, and those are the people that it was debated not to give the money to. But when you think about it, as much as like all these people like Trump was horrible, it's like, yeah, but he didn't say don't give nurses money. There, he did. No, it's like, yeah, but at the same time, you wait however you want to wait. It's an odd thing. A lot of politics went into that, and like they wanted to give some people money, they didn't want to give other people money, and it just was this whole upheaval about all kinds of stuff going on with that stimulus check. But overall, I think it did benefit most people because it did help, especially people that started businesses, and it did help with people that were like at home. It did help some with that. So I think it was a good idea. Do I think it was better to have the stimulus check than shut down the economy? No. Because if we didn't shut anything down, we would have been much better off than getting the stimulus check.
I would agree. I wish they didn't shut it down and just let people work with the risk. And I mean, I'd rather work with risk than be controlled economically by the government.
I mean, I didn't stop working.
Oh, I would say like
I live in Florida, and like that's one of the things that, as much as people hate DeSantis, he made a good choice with that. Because he pretty much let you go to work if you wanted to or not. Like we didn't shut down at all during COVID. Like we never had a point where we had to stay home. They gave us a curfew, but I remember when the curfew started, I was like, "There's a curfew." My shift ended at 11. The curfew was at 9, and no cop pulled me over. No cop stopped me because most cops in Florida are not going to do that because they're just like, if you're out right now and you aren't serving and driving like that, then you're probably just going home from work. We don't care. And if you are, because one thing that did happen in Florida while cops stopped pulling people for that is a lot of cops got COVID because people don't wear masks in their car. So a lot of cops started getting COVID, and then people started attacking cops. Like and it became dangerous because the rest of the country didn't see this, but Florida saw this because Florida didn't shut down because cops were pushing so hard. Because you saw those videos about cops going to tell people to stay home. They didn't do that in Florida, but cops started to try to do that.
Can you stand by 1 second?
What are you doing?
No, I'm shooting an interview. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me see. So, before we switch gears, there's another thing I want to get into. This will be the second portion, guys. This will be the money part. So, what do you currently do for a living, and how long have you been doing it?
I drive Uber currently. Before that, I worked at AutoZone. I used to run one of their warehouses, their distribution centers, actually. I left there because it got a little bit too much when COVID started. Like, I'm not working 70 hours a week and not being paid that much. Because I make the same, actually, I make more doing Uber, which is kind of ironic because I would just work at night. I work like 40 hours a week and I make the same amount as working 70 hours a week, making $20 an hour. So, like, I switched gears for that reason, and, like, I had a lot more time now. And one of the reasons I switched gears was because I wanted to put more effort into my writing, more effort into making videos and stuff. But because of how COVID locked everything down, I never really put that much effort into it until the last month or so.
When it comes to being an Uber driver, how do you do your savings and retirement? Is that something you guys build yourself, or how do you guys have that set up?
That's something you build yourself. That's something you have to do yourself. Like, everything is on you. I do mechanic work also. Well, not for other people. I was going to do it for school, but then I got sick and I was like, no, I can't be outside. So I do have mechanic training, so it makes it a lot easier. Like, I wouldn't recommend doing Uber if you have no mechanic training. I wouldn't recommend it because tires, brakes, all that stuff, it's a lot more to, like, do it. Like, I had to take my car to get the AC fixed, and it was like $450. And I'm like, oh, you're just lucky I don't have tools to go through the wiring in this car. Because to replace the compressor in my car was $700.
Wow.
I did that. To replace most of the stuff that I've done myself, it's a lot of money. I drive a Suburban. It is not a cheap car to have. And even a smaller car, it's not cheap to have your car and maintain your car, doing your oil change and stuff like that. You pay 2-3 times as much for your oil change if you go take it somewhere to do it yourself. And you don't even know what grade oil they're putting in your car. Like, the oil change for my car is $180 at a shop. It cost me $60 to do. It costs $180, so it costs $120 to do 4 or 5 oil changes. Because I buy it in jugs. And the car uses more oil than a regular car. I get better gas mileage because I choose my oil. I change my oil filter. The oil filter is like $4. I change all the stuff myself. So, for me, it works because I have the knowledge to do a lot of the maintaining and do a lot of the stuff myself. Like, it's funny, like, I bought wiper blades, $10 at Sam's Club for 2 wiper blades. So you go do, like, AutoZone or even O'Reilly's or Advanced Auto, those 2 wiper blades are going to cost you like $40 because they're going to put them on. They put them on for free. They put them on for free. It's not really free. The price is already jacked up to include that.
Oh, so another thing, we're having massive inflation, especially around the world. The United States having high gas prices. What is your plan to handle inflation and, like, investing at the same time if you're doing that?
My first plan is to leave Florida because we have the highest inflation in the country. Like, we do. Most people don't realize this, but we do. I looked at housing in California. It's cheaper to buy a house in California now than it is to buy one in Florida. Me and my wife were looking for a house, and we were looking at a $125,000 house, and we got outbidded the day of the auction closing, actually an hour before the auction, before we're supposed to sign the papers, we got outbidded by 900,000.
Wow.
900,000. That's higher than what we bid. That's not the closing bid. That's what they bid higher than us. We saw another one, and that one was a nicer house. It was bigger, and the offer was a lot higher. So we didn't expect to get outbidded on that one because it was on the market for a year, and no one even put a bid on it. We're like, yeah, we'll put a bid on it because like they had some work to be done. And we're like, oh, it's fine because the inspection is going to pass, so it doesn't matter. Day of closing, they called us and they're like, do you want to increase your bid? I think it was 600,000 higher than what we put than our bid. So they're asking $600,000 more than what we put. They did that the last day. And we didn't do it because we're not insane. We're not going to get a loan from the bank for, I think it was $1.2 million at that point. So it doesn't make sense. Like a lot of that actually happened in Florida where the thing that was happening was you were not being outbidded during the bidding process. You were being outbidded on the last day when you either had to put up the money or just fund a different house. And that's what raised the market rate also. And the one little insider thing that I learned from driving Uber and picking up a bunch of realtors is it's their fault. Realtors are actually the ones sending these bids to these companies that are willing to outbid you for cash on the day of closing. They're calling these people up on closing day so that they can come look at the house if they want to buy it or not. So basically, they work with you and tell you, yeah, you're going to get this nice house and you're going to be fine. And then when you're about to close, they call these other companies up and be like, hey, would you like to outbid these people? And a lot of them will do it. I had a bunch of realtors when I was driving actually have conversations with other people like that in the car. I actually had one, ironically enough, how I knew that's what was going on was he got in the car, and the person he was going to see was his client. He was telling them they're going to close on Saturday afternoon, and he's bringing the paper to them to sign to make sure everything goes well. And he's going to bring the paper from the sign to do the final inspections. After he got off the phone, he called somebody up, don't know who it was, and scheduled a showing off the same house Saturday morning. And he told them, this is the price you have to put down. And I knew the price was like 800,000 higher than the price that it was going for. He told them 800,000 higher.
Wow.
Tell them that it was being sold. He's like, you're going to have one day, and the price you're going to have to look, it's going to be this price. And it was like 800,000. It's like I think it was like 2 million because the house is going for like 1.2. He told me, it's going to start at $2 million. And I was like, that's crazy. That's what they're doing. That's the reason for the massive inflation.
So when it comes to this inflation, right, I hope everyone hopes that it starts cooling down, starts having some deflation. But do you think this is going to be running from this president to the next presidency?
I don't think so. I think it will start cooling down in like a year. It's not going to cool down right now, but it will start cooling down in like a year when people make smarter choices. And like I'm leaving Florida because it's ridiculous here. Mm-hmm. So that's my plan. I'm leaving Florida either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And a lot of people are going to start doing that. They're going to realize where they're living and the things they're doing don't make sense, and they're going to start making different choices, which is going to cause, regardless of what higher-ups want, it's going to cause a shift. Companies won't be able to do whatever they feel like because people are just going to be like, I don't care because you're not paying me enough. Bye. And also, you notice that in places like Amazon and stuff like that, a lot of these, like Uber Eats and Amazon, because Amazon does their own delivery service, that's how you can basically just sign up and do it. They're losing tons of deliveries. Like, you probably didn't notice, but the reason why like some stuff is late on Amazon now is because of that, and the drivers just aren't showing up. So they don't have enough people to work because they're not paying enough. So people are actually starting to make choices for themselves to go in other directions.
I like that. With all this, with the money talk, do you, especially with YouTube, do you plan to start, or you're already donating. You have any plans with that?
I don't know, like probably to the MS Society because I have MS. But that's usually what my donation. Whenever I donate, that's who I donate to. Because I have MS. I've had it since I was 19. It's very rare to have it that young, but I have. But that's about it. As far as YouTube making money, YouTube, I will monetize my content when it gets time to do that. But most of my income is not going to be coming from YouTube. YouTube is a way to pretty much promote myself and have a way to engage with the audience that I'm building.
Like that. Awesome. Well, you have any questions, any comments you want to say?
Oh, what about you?
No, this has been awesome. No, that's it. Yeah, this has been awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Oh, one thing, like, I do other video platforms also, which is why I'm not too concerned about YouTube. Like, I do BitChute. I started Dailymotion, Vidmo, somewhat. But, like, I noticed, like, if you want, a lot of large YouTubers are starting to move their content into other places also. So, like, I thought about that, and that's why I started doing that. YouTube is still my main focus, but at the same time, a large audience, you have as much as you can. I'm building my website back up, which is going to be Mind If Will. So it's been there for years. I had that blog since I was 14. I had a Mind If Will blog, and it turned into my website.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm bringing it back.
Okay. Do you have Facebook, social medias, any of that? We'll put.
Yeah. It's hard to spell. It's W and then Ollivierre, so WOLLIVIERRE, and it's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook also has Mind If Will. Like it has its own page for Mind If Will, and that's for like my books and stuff.
Wonderful. All right, guys. So we're gonna have all that in the description below, and I'll make sure it's completely labeled off so you guys can see, so you get in contact with Mind If Will, this content creator. But thank you. This is my first collaboration video. I really want to. I'm actually, this is interesting. I love listening to people's perspective, especially about what's happening today in this world, this crazy world. But thank you so much, William. I'll see you. Hopefully, we do another collaboration video, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, later.